Everyone, Jeff, your executive gardener. How you doing? Back for another episode. So, my episode last week was on my lack of ability to put in calcium and magnesium, mainly calcium, and I got blossom end rot. And you'll see, I threw away a bunch of tomatoes. You'll see right there, I've got blossom end rot in one of my tomatoes. Not looking too good. But the good thing about this is a new Big Dwarf Tomato. And there's a bunch of other tomatoes that are starting to come in. You'll see a bunch of blossoms at the top here. Looking really good. Some tomatoes that are coming in all over the plant. Again, some more flowers. And the other problem I made is I planted it in too small of a container. That's a 2-gallon or 2.5-gallon container. It needs more room to grow. So I'm going to replant this thing into a Home Depot 5-gallon bucket, and while I'm at it, I'm going to add some nutrients. So if you'll take a look at what I have here, I'm going to go through these with you. The nutrients that I'm going to add to a high-quality potting mix are calcium nitrate, for obviously calcium and then some nitrogen, some well-balanced organic tomato vegetable plant food, which has a 5:4:6 NPK ratio, some Epsom salt for magnesium sulfate to add some micronutrients. I do have some chicken manure from Charlie's Compost. Every time I water my plant going forward, every week I'm going to use a little bit, half a teaspoon of CalMag to add calcium and magnesium. Again, the calcium is to prevent blossom end rot. And then every week I always put in some Jack's tomato feed, which is 12, 15, 30. So by adding all of those things into that bucket, this plant will thrive and will have more success getting bigger tomatoes, healthier tomatoes. This pot is just too small. If you're growing a dwarf tomato plant or any tomato plant, I do not recommend going less than 5 gallons. Let me replant these and I'll show you what the plant looks like out of this small container into this. Hang tight. Actually, so I took this plant, I laid it down carefully on its side. Be very careful when you transplant these, but take a look at these roots. So there's nowhere else for these roots to go. They're completely bound within the plastic pot, and it needs more room. So, compare the difference in size between this and that. So I'm going to actually transplant this with all of these nutrients, and people are going to ask me how much do I use of each. I use a half a handful of each: calcium nitrate, tomato food, chicken compost, and about 2 tablespoons of magnesium salt. So that's about it. Anyway, what I'm going to do is also plant it a little deeper. Remember, with tomatoes you can plant it deeper, so I'm going to plant it as deep as I can to try to build roots out of the stem too. So let me replant this, but I wanted to show you, it's just completely root bound at this point in time. Okay, let me come back after I replant it. All right, so we've got the pot. Actually, I have 2 plants, but here's one of them transplanted into the 5-gallon bucket. It's now filled to the top, and it should have plenty of room for the roots to grow out. So, looking good. I put my post up as well to give it some support. My stake, excuse me. I also, so you'll see it's filled to the top here. Also, what I do, is I put in mulch. So I want mulch to be all around the bottom. The other thing I'm going to do, and you'll notice here quickly, is all these bottom leaves here that are close to the mulch I'm going to get rid of. There's no flowers on any of these, and they tend to get blight the first, and I want the plant to concentrate energy on the fruit and developing fruit versus very thick, big leaves. So I'm going to cut these branches with leaves that are close to the bottom off, and then we'll be good to go. So I'll bring you back after I do that, and then I'll close out. So as you can see, I've trimmed just about all the branches from the tomato plants, probably about 7-8 inches up, nothing there. That's not going to do anything, no flowers. Most of the fruit, as you can see, is concentrated to the top of the plant. We've got some here in the middle and so forth. But for a plant, it's all about energy. I only have a 5-gallon plant. This thing's going to give as much energy as it can. I'd rather have 10-inch fruit versus 4-inch fruit. And if you don't trim away some of those leaves at the bottom that'll take away from the energy in the plant, that's what will happen. So now that I have this thing potted up, I'm going to give it a good drink of water. I waited to the Plant was a little bit dry, so it was easy to transplant. If you do this, please do it at night. So it's about 6 o'clock at night, sun's going down. As you can see, I'm in the shade, and it's going to be a little bit of a shock to this plant system, so you don't want to put it right away into the 80-degree heat and sun. So it'll have overnight to recover if it has a little bit of shock, and we'll be in great place. The other thing I wanted to say real quick in this bucket, so what I did here is I drilled holes, water holes, and they're about 2 inches from the bottom, and they're not on the bottom of the bucket. The reason that's the way it is because I want a reservoir. So as the summer gets hotter, that mulch will obviously help retain the water from the top of the plant, but by drilling holes, 4 of them around the bottom, about right here, that gives 2 inches for a reservoir of water to sit in the bucket so the roots can drink up from it. It doesn't leak right out. And I do that because I travel a lot, and it just gets too hot here, and I want to make sure my plant always has a source of water. So that's an idea I learned from a few other people. So that's all I have for you, folks. The tomato plant appears to have transplanted successfully. I'm going to make sure all of my tomato plants and buckets have mulch at the top and at least a 5-gallon bucket so I can maximize my harvest, maximize my yield. Again, to recap, I showed you the nutrients, what to use to add to your potting mix. As a reminder, I do also feed these things once every 2 weeks with quality compost tea. They're going to suck up a lot of nutrients, folks, so make sure they have a good amount. You'll be rewarded in the harvest. So that's it for you. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. I enjoy interacting with many of you in the comments. Just a side note, we do get a lot of trolls, and I always find it interesting whenever I get a trolling comment. I always go to see how many videos that person has made, and you guessed it, they made 0. So it's easy for people to talk when they have no courage and no boldness. But those of you I commend, whether you're a beginning gardener or you're an existing gardener, to get in front of the camera, share with the world what you know, and be courageous enough to get it out there. For the trolls, I don't worry about it. And if people have to troll gardening channels, I think they've got bigger issues, if you know what I'm talking about. And so with my channel, all comments are approved before they get on anyway. So as you'll notice, there's not many troll comments, is that we tend to get rid of them so it doesn't bother the community prior to them getting their comment in. But I do appreciate all the nice comments and nice interaction that I have with people in this community. It does help me by leaving comments. It does help me by giving a thumbs up or referring it to a friend. So until next time, this is Jeff, your executive gardener. Take care. Bye.